Hello, cherished listeners. Welcome to a story that promises to tug at your heartstrings and remind you of the purest love imaginable. Before we begin this journey, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel for more tales of wonder, and let us know in the comments where in the world you're tuning in from. Now settle in, get comfortable, and prepare to be moved by a bond beyond death, the dog who waited forever in the quiet, unassuming town of Oakhaven, nestled beside the winding River Elm, lived a man named Arthur and his golden retriever, Buster. Their bond was not merely that of owner and pet. It was an unspoken language, a symbiotic rhythm that defined their very existence. Arthur, a retired carpenter with hands gnarled by years of honest labor, found his greatest joy in Buster's unwavering companionship. Buster, with eyes like warm amber and a tail that wagged with the fervor of a joyful pendulum, saw Arthur not just as his master, but as his entire world. Their days unfolded in a comforting predictability. Mornings began with Buster's gentle nudge, a soft whine, and then a shared breakfast on the porch. Arthur sipping tea while Buster meticulously crunched his kibble, occasionally glancing up for a reassuring pat. The mid-mornings were reserved for long, meandering walks through Oakhaven's tree-lined streets, Buster trotting faithfully beside, Arthur his nose twitching at every intriguing scent. His ears perked for Arthur's quiet observations about the changing seasons or the town's latest happenings. Arthur, a man of few words, found his voice when speaking to Buster, sharing his thoughts, his memories, and even his worries. Knowing that Buster, in his canine wisdom, understood far more than he let on. Afternoons were a symphony of quiet contentment. Arthur would often settle into his favorite armchair by the window, a well-worn book in hand, while Buster would curl at his feet, a warm, furry presence. The only sounds would be the turning of pages, the soft ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall, and Buster's contented snores, punctuated by the occasional dream-induced whimper. Evenings brought the ritual of dinner, followed by Arthur reading aloud from an old novel, his voice a soothing balm, Buster's head resting on his lap, his eyes half closed in blissful repose. Their routine was a tapestry woven with threads of deep affection, mutual respect, and an understanding that transcended words. It was a life of simple pleasures, yet profoundly rich, built on the foundation of an unbreakable bond. Oakhaven was a small town where everyone knew everyone, and Arthur and Buster were a beloved fixture. Children would wave, neighbors would smile, and the local shopkeepers always had a treat ready for Buster. They were a testament to enduring loyalty, a beacon of uncomplicated love in a world that often seemed to overcomplicate everything. Little did they know, this seemingly unshakable routine was about to face its ultimate test, a challenge that would elevate their bond from a cherished companionship to a legend whispered through generations. As the seasons turned, painting Oakhaven in hues of vibrant green, fiery orange, and crisp white, a subtle shift began to occur. Arthur, once spry for his age, found himself tiring more easily. The long walks with Buster grew shorter, the pace a little slower. His hands, once strong and steady, now trembled occasionally as he poured his morning tea. Buster, with the keen intuition of a creature deeply attuned to its companion, noticed these changes. He would often rest his head on Arthur's lap for longer periods, his gaze filled with an unreadable concern. When Arthur would sigh, a little heavier than usual, Buster would respond with a soft lick to his hand, a silent offering of comfort. It was a subtle dance of care, one where the roles seemed to gently reverse, Buster becoming the watchful guardian, Arthur the one needing quiet solace. Arthur, ever pragmatic, tried to dismiss these signs. "Just old age catching up, lad," he'd mumble to Buster, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. He'd push himself to continue their routines, determined not to let his physical limitations diminish their shared joy. But the quiet strength that had always defined him now seemed tinged with a delicate fragility. He'd find himself needing to sit more often on their walks, gazing at the river with a faraway look in his eyes. Buster, ever patient, would sit beside him, his warm body a comforting anchor, his tail thumping a soft rhythm against the earth. The townspeople, too, began to notice. Mrs. Gable, from the bakery, would often offer Arthur a warm pastry, her eyes filled with gentle worry. Young Tom, the paper boy, would linger a moment longer, ensuring Arthur made it safely up his porch steps. Oak Cabin, a community built on quiet observation and unspoken care, extended its collective sympathy to Arthur, understanding that time, the relentless sculptor was reshaping their beloved neighbor. One crisp autumn afternoon, as golden leaves swirled around their feet, Arthur paused mid-walk, his hand clutching his chest. A sharp, fleeting pain, like a sudden chill, had pierced him. Buster, sensing the shift, immediately sat, nudging Arthur's hand with his wet nose. Arthur took a deep, shuddering breath, trying to steady himself. "Just a stitch, old boy," he managed, forcing a weak smile. But the tremor in his voice and the paleness of his face did not escape Buster's notice. From that day forward, Buster's vigilance intensified. He would shadow Arthur's every move, sleeping closer to his bed, often waking with a start if Arthur stirred in the night. He seemed to understand, in his profound canine way, that something precious was slowly slipping away. This silent understanding, this unspoken pact between man and dog, deepened their bond further, weaving new threads of protective love into their already intricate tapestry. Arthur, though aware of Buster's heightened attentiveness, chose to cherish it, finding immense comfort in his loyal presence. Even as the whispers of time grew louder, hinting at an inevitable separation that neither of them was truly prepared for. The winter arrived, blanketing Oak Haven in a hush of snow, and with it, Arthur's health took a more discernible turn. The fleeting pains became more frequent, his energy dwindled further, and the once robust Arthur now moved with a deliberate slowness. Dr. Peterson, the town's kind-hearted physician, made regular visits, his face etched with a familiar sorrow. He spoke in hushed tones to Arthur's niece, Sarah, who had moved closer to help, about Arthur's weakening heart, advising rest and comfort. Arthur, despite his failing body, retained his sharp mind and his gentle spirit. He spent most of his days by the window, watching the snow fall, Buster a warm, constant weight beside him. He would often stroke Buster's head, his fingers tracing the soft fur, a deep affection in his eyes. One particularly quiet afternoon, as a gentle snow fell, Arthur felt a profound weariness settle over him, unlike any he had experienced before. He knew, with a certainty that was both peaceful and heartbreaking, that his time was drawing near. He called Buster closer, pulling the loyal dog onto the armchair beside him, cradling his head in his lap. Buster, sensing the gravity of the moment, looked up at Arthur with his intelligent, soulful eyes, his tail a motionless question mark. Arthur's voice was barely a whisper, hoarse with emotion. "Buster, my good boy," he began, his voice cracking slightly. "You've been the best friend a man could ever ask for. My shadow, my confidant, my joy." He paused, taking a shaky breath. "Soon, I won't be able to take our walks or read to you by the fire. I'll be going on a very long journey, lad. A journey I must take alone." Buster whimpered softly, pressing his head harder into Arthur's hand, as if trying to absorb his master's sorrow. Arthur continued, his voice gaining a fragile strength. "But I want you to promise me something, old boy. I want you to wait for me. I'll come back for you, Buster. I always will. Just wait by the old station, by the oak tree. That's where we always said goodbye, isn't it? I'll come back on the train, and you'll be there, just like always. You wait for me, my loyal friend." He repeated the promise, not once, but several times, as if imprinting it onto Buster's very soul. He stroked Buster's ears, his hands lingering, memorizing the feel of his soft fur, the warmth of his presence. Buster listened intently, his ears perked, his eyes fixed on Arthur's face, seemingly absorbing every word, every nuance of his master's heartfelt plea. There was an understanding in Buster's gaze, a profound loyalty that seemed to transcend the boundaries of species. He nudged Arthur's hand once more, a silent bow. As the afternoon faded into the twilight, Arthur drifted into a peaceful sleep, Buster still curled tightly beside him, a faithful guardian. Sarah found them later, Arthur's hand still resting on Buster's head, a serene smile gracing his lips. He had passed quietly, gently, his last conscious thoughts undoubtedly filled with love for his devoted companion. Buster, though he would not fully comprehend the finality of death, would remember the promise. He would remember the specific place, and he would wait. His loyalty, forged in years of shared joy and quiet companionship, was now bound by a sacred promise, a thread woven not just through life, but seemingly beyond it. The morning after Arthur's passing dawned with a brittle, cold light. Sarah, her eyes red-rimmed from tears, moved quietly through the house, making arrangements. Buster, however, was restless. He sensed a profound absence, a gaping void where Arthur's familiar presence should have been. He wandered from room to room, his nose to the ground, searching for the scent, the sound, the comforting warmth of his master. He whined softly, a low, mournful sound that echoed the emptiness in the house. When Sarah tried to offer him breakfast, he merely sniffed at it, then turned away, his focus elsewhere. He kept returning to the armchair where Arthur had spent his last hours, pawing at the cushion, then looking up at Sarah with a questioning gaze, as if asking, "Where is he?" Arthur's funeral was a somber affair, attended by many of Oakhaven's residents, all sharing stories of his kindness and his quiet strength. Buster was kept at home, Sarah believing it would be too distressing for him. But the dog's internal compass was already set. As the day wore on, Buster's restlessness intensified. He paced by the front door, then the back, a growing urgency in his movements. He remembered Arthur's words, the promise whispered in his ear, "Wait for me by the old station, by the oak tree. I'll come back on the train." For Buster, these weren't metaphors. They were instructions, a sacred command from his beloved master. He pushed against the back door, whining, his eyes pleading. Sarah, distracted by her grief and the arrangements, didn't immediately grasp his intent. Finally, with a burst of determination, Buster managed to slip past Sarah when she opened the door to speak with a neighbor. He bolted out, not toward the familiar park, but down the street, his powerful legs carrying him with a singular purpose. He ran past the bakery, past the general store, past the town square, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and fervent hope. The townspeople, seeing him dash by, called out his name, but Buster was oblivious. His destination was clear, the old Oakhaven train station. It was a small, charming station built decades ago, still active though, with fewer trains than in its heyday. A grand old oak tree stood majestically beside the platform, its bare winter branches reaching towards the sky like gnarled fingers. This was the designated spot, the place of reunion. Buster arrived, panting, his breath steaming in the cold air. He sniffed around the base of the oak tree, then jumped onto the platform, his eyes scanning the empty tracks. There was no train, no Arthur, but Buster was not deterred. He had been told to wait, and wait he would. He settled down, his body a golden sentinel against the stark winter landscape, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the tracks disappeared into the distance. The first dawn of his long vigil had arrived, a silent testament to a promise made, and a loyalty that defied the very concept of absence. Sarah, realizing Buster was gone, eventually followed his tracks in the snow, her heart sinking when she found him at the station. She tried to coax him home, but Buster merely whined, refusing to move, his eyes unwavering from the tracks. He was waiting, and he would continue to wait for as long as it took. Days turned into weeks, and Buster's vigil at the Oak Haven train station became a familiar sight to the townspeople. Every morning, with an almost religious punctuality, he would arrive at the platform, take up his post beside the old oak tree, and wait. He would sit, sometimes stand, his head cocked, listening for the faint rumble of an approaching train. His eyes, once full of youthful exuberance, now held a deep, patient resolve, fixed on the distant curve of the tracks where Arthur's return was promised. Sarah, initially frantic, had tried everything to bring him home. She brought him food, a warm blanket, even his favorite toys, hoping to entice him away. But Buster would only eat what she offered, then politely nudge the blanket away, always returning to his spot, his gaze never wavering. He would accept a gentle stroke, a whispered word of comfort, but his heart, his very being, was anchored to that platform. "He's waiting for Arthur," old Mr. Henderson, the station master, would often say to perplexed travelers. Mr. Henderson, a man who had seen countless departures and arrivals, understood the profound nature of Buster's loyalty. He knew the bond between Arthur and Buster, and he recognized the silent promise that held the dog captive to his vigil. He began to leave a bowl of fresh water out for Buster, and sometimes a few scraps from his lunch, making sure Buster was cared for, even if he couldn't be persuaded to leave his post. The town, initially saddened and a little bewildered, slowly began to embrace Buster's unwavering devotion. Children, on their way to school, would stop to offer a gentle pat, whispering words of encouragement. Shopkeepers would bring him treats, and even the gruffest of townsfolk would offer a kind word. Buster had become Oak Haven's silent guardian, a living monument to loyalty. The twice-daily trains, once merely a part of the town's background noise, now took on a new significance. As each train approached, Buster would rise, his body tensing with anticipation. He would watch as the passengers disembarked, his tail giving a tentative wag, his eyes searching each face with an almost desperate hope. And each time, as the last passenger left and the train pulled away, a quiet sigh would escape him, his tail would droop, and he would settle back down, ready to resume his patient wait. There was no despair in his actions, no giving up. Only an enduring, steadfast hope, fueled by the memory of a whispered promise. The cold winds of winter bit at his fur, and the occasional snowstorm would blanket the station, but Buster remained. He would find shelter under the overhang of the station roof during the worst weather, but his eyes would still be fixed on the tracks, his spirit unbroken. His fur, once meticulously groomed by Arthur, now carried the dust of the platform and the occasional snowflake. But his eyes, though perhaps a little wiser, still shone with the same unwavering devotion. He was Buster, the dog who waited. His story, though silent, was beginning to echo through the hearts of Oak Haven, a poignant melody of love that refused to be silenced by death. The town watched, revered, and cared for him, understanding that they were witnessing something truly extraordinary, a bond that time and loss could not sever. The unwavering vigil continued, a testament to a love that truly knew no bounds. As winter's icy grip loosened and the first tentative green shoots of spring emerged, Buster remained at his post. The rhythm of his life was now dictated by the trains and the passing seasons. He saw the snow melt into puddles, watched as tiny buds unfurled on the oak tree, and felt the warmth of the returning sun on his fur. Yet his gaze never strayed far from the tracks. The station, once a bustling hub, had become his home, his sanctuary, his place of sacred duty. The townspeople continued their quiet support. Children would bring him drawings of dogs waiting by trains, their innocent hearts touched by his story. Mrs. Gable would leave him fresh-baked bread, and Mr. Henderson would often share his lunch, sitting a respectful distance away, simply keeping him company. Buster, in turn, became a silent, comforting presence for the town. His unwavering loyalty was a reminder of something pure and constant in an ever-changing world. People would oft take a detour just to walk past the station to see Buster, to witness his steadfastness. He was a quiet hero, a symbol of enduring love. His story, once confined to Oakhaven, began to spread. Travelers passing through on the train would inquire about the dog, listening intently to Mr. Henderson's tales of Arthur and his loyal companion. Some would take photographs, others would simply observe in awe, touched by the depth of Buster's devotion. The legend of Buster, the dog who waited, was slowly, organically taking root. Summer arrived, bringing with it long, warm days and the lively sounds of Oakhaven. Children played near the station, their laughter echoing, but Buster remained focused. He would sometimes close his eyes, seemingly dozing, but the slightest rumble of an approaching train would instantly bring him to full alertness, his body tensing, his eyes scanning the horizon. The heat of the summer sun didn't deter him, nor did the sudden summer showers. He would seek the shade of the oak tree or the overhang of the station, but always his attention was fixed on the tracks. His coat, once thick and glossy, now seemed a little more weathered, a testament to the elements he had endured. Through all this, Buster never showed signs of despair. There was a quiet dignity in his weight, a profound understanding that Arthur's promise was not to be broken. He trusted completely, unequivocally. His days were spent in patient observation, his nights in a watchful slumber, always ready for the moment Arthur would step off that train. He was no longer just Arthur's dog. He was Oakhaven's dog, a living embodiment of the town's quiet virtues, loyalty, patience, and a deep, enduring heart. The rhythm of the seasons continued, each one a new chapter in Buster's unwavering vigil, each day adding another layer to the legend of his extraordinary devotion. The station, once just a place of transit, had been transformed into a sacred space, hallowed by the presence of a dog who loved beyond measure and waited beyond time. As the years began to accumulate, each one marked by the turning of the seasons and the unwavering presence of Buster at the Oakhaven train station, he transitioned from being a poignant local curiosity to a deeply cherished symbol. The little town, once defined by its quiet charm and riverside beauty, now found a new, profound identity in the story of its faithful dog. Buster was more than just a dog. He was a living testament to an ideal, a beacon of loyalty in a world that often seemed to forget the meaning of steadfastness. His golden fur, once vibrant and thick, now showed streaks of silver around his muzzle and eyes, badges of honor earned through countless hours of patient waiting. His movements were a little slower, his steps a little more deliberate, but his spirit remained as resolute as the ancient oak tree beside him. The townspeople had long given up trying to coax him home. Instead, they adapted their lives to care for him at his chosen post. A small, insulated doghouse built by Mr. Henderson and a few volunteers appeared discreetly tucked behind the old oak tree, offering Buster shelter from the harshest weather. Local children, now grown into teenagers, took turns ensuring his food and water bowls were always full. His veterinarian, Dr. Evans, made regular house calls to the station, checking on Buster's health. Marveling at his enduring vitality despite the years he spent exposed to the elements, Buster, in his gentle way, accepted these acts of kindness, offering a soft nudge or a slow wag of his tail in appreciation. But his focus, his unwavering purpose, remained unchanged. His story had now reached beyond the borders of Oakhaven. Journalists from national newspapers, intrigued by the tale, came to the station, hoping to capture the essence of Buster's devotion. Television crews filmed him, their cameras zooming in on his patient eyes, trying to convey the depth of his unwavering hope. While Buster remained oblivious to his growing fame, the articles and broadcasts brought a flood of letters and small packages to Oakhaven, filled with donations for Buster's care, toys, and heartfelt messages of admiration from people around the world. He had become a global symbol of true love and faithfulness, a silent ambassador for the profound connection between humans and animals. Despite the attention, Buster's routine never faltered. He continued to greet each arriving train with the same hopeful anticipation, his ears perked, his eyes searching. And with each departure, he would settle back down, his vigil unbroken. He was a living clock, marking the passage of time not by hours or days, but by the trains that came and went, each one a potential harbinger of Arthur's return. His presence at the station was a constant, comforting fixture, a silent promise kept. The seasons continued their relentless cycle, but Buster's loyalty remained immutable, a beacon of unwavering love that shone brightly, illuminating the hearts of all who witnessed or heard his extraordinary tale. He was truly a bond beyond death, a testament to a love that defied all conventional understanding of time and loss. Years continued their relentless march, etching lines of wisdom around Buster S. eyes and painting his once golden fur with swaths of pure white. He was an old dog now, his steps slower, his body a little more fragile, but his spirit, his unwavering resolve, remained as strong as the ancient oak tree beside him. The Oakhaven train station, once a place of transit, had become a living memorial to a love story that refused to end. Buster's presence was so ingrained in the town's fabric that it was almost impossible to imagine the station without him. He was a constant, a comforting fixture in a world that ceaselessly changed. His days were still spent at the station, though he now spent more time resting in his insulated doghouse, emerging with careful deliberation for each approaching train. The once lively wag of his tail had softened to a gentle sway, a quiet acknowledgement of the hope that still flickered within him. His senses, though dulled by age, were still acutely tuned to the rumble of the tracks, the whistle of an approaching engine. Even in his deepest slumber, the sound would stir him, prompting him to rise, to check, to hope. New generations of Oakhaven children grew up knowing Buster. They heard the stories from their parents and grandparents, tales of Arthur and his faithful companion. They learned about loyalty and enduring love from the quiet example of a dog who waited. They would approach him with a respectful tenderness, offering soft pats and gentle words, understanding the sacred nature of his vigil. Buster, in turn, would accept their affection with a knowing glance, a soft sigh, a silent acknowledgement of their shared humanity. The town's collective care for Buster deepened with his age. Meals were prepared with extra care, tailored to his elderly needs. His blankets were changed regularly, and the path to his doghouse was kept clear. Even in the harshest snow, Dr. Evans continued his regular checkups, marveling at Buster's resilience, attributing it not just to physical constitution, but to the sheer force of his purpose, the unwavering strength of his love. Buster was not just surviving. He was living with a profound, singular mission, a testament to the power of a promise. Sometimes on quiet evenings, as the last train had departed and the station was bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, Buster would lie on the platform, his head resting on his paws, his eyes gazing into the distance. It was in these moments that one could almost feel the weight of the years, the countless trains, the endless days of waiting, yet there was no regret, no bitterness in his posture. Only a profound, unwavering patience, a deep, abiding love that transcended the physical realm. He was still Arthur's Buster, and he was still waiting, carrying the weight of a promise with dignity and an unshakable heart. His vigil continued, a quiet, powerful testament to a bond that death could not diminish and time could not erase. The passage of a decade had transformed Oakhaven, yet Buster remained its most constant feature. New shops had opened, old buildings had been renovated, and generations had shifted. But the sight of the white-muzzled golden retriever patiently waiting at the station was an immutable truth. He had become an integral part of the town's identity, a quiet, furry landmark that embodied its heart and soul. His presence was so ingrained that even new residents, upon hearing his story, quickly assimilated him into their understanding of Oakhaven, often feeling a profound sense of connection to his unwavering spirit. Buster's physical strength had diminished, making his movements slower and more deliberate, but his internal resolve remained as potent as ever. He would still rise for every train, though the effort was now more visible. He would stand for a moment, his old eyes scanning the disembarking passengers, a flicker of hope in their depths before settling back down with a gentle sigh as Arthur failed to appear. His disappointment was never dramatic, merely a quiet resignation, an immediate resetting of his patience for the next arrival. This quiet strength, this unwavering acceptance of his vigil, was perhaps the most remarkable aspect of his character. The community's care for Buster had evolved into a collective guardianship. A roster was maintained at the general store, detailing who was responsible for Buster's meals, his fresh water, and the cleaning of his doghouse each day. Children who once brought him drawings now, as young adults, volunteered to walk him on short, gentle strolls around the station perimeter, ensuring he got some exercise and a change of scenery, though he always guided them back to his chosen spot. His vet, Dr. Evans, now retired, had passed on Buster's care to his successor, Dr. Lee, who treated Buster with the same reverence and affection. Buster, in his quiet way, had also developed a unique routine with the station staff. Mr. Henderson, now even older, would often share his morning coffee on the platform, sitting on a bench a few feet from Buster, simply enjoying the silent company. They were two old souls, bound by the shared experience of time's relentless march and the quiet understanding of enduring loyalty. Buster would sometimes rest his head on Mr. Henderson's knee, accepting a gentle ear scratch, a fleeting moment of connection that transcended words. His legacy was not just in his story, but in the subtle impact he had on the town itself. People in Oakhaven seemed to carry a little more patience, a little more kindness, a little more understanding. Buster's unwavering love was a constant, gentle reminder of what truly mattered. He was a living lesson in devotion, a quiet strength that resonated through the heart of the community. As the seasons continued their endless cycle, Buster, the dog who waited, remained a steadfast beacon, his quiet strength illuminating the profound depth of his bond, a bond that defied the very concept of time and physical absence. The years had not only marked Buster's fur with silver, but had also etched themselves into the very fabric of Oakhaven. The old train station, a charming relic, now seemed to stand as a shrine, its platform hallowed by Buster's unwavering presence. He was no longer just a dog. He was an institution, a living legend, his story passed down from parent to child, becoming a foundational myth of the town. The echoes of Arthur's promise, whispered so many years ago, reverberated through Buster's every patient breath, every hopeful glance. Buster's routine, though slower, remained meticulously observed. He would greet the early morning sun, often taking a short, stiff stretch before moving to his waiting spot. His internal clock, finely tuned to the train schedule, would stir him from his deepest slumber moments before the distant whistle signaled an arrival. He would rise, his old bones protesting slightly, and position himself, his eyes scanning the windows of the carriages, then the faces of the disembarking passengers. The flicker of hope was still there, undimmed by countless disappointments. His diet, carefully managed by the town's volunteers, consisted of soft, easily digestible foods, ensuring his comfort in his advanced age. His insulated doghouse was a cozy haven, filled with soft blankets, warmed by a small, safe heating pad in the colder months. He received regular, gentle massages from a kind-hearted local masseuse who volunteered her time to ease his aching joints. Buster, though often in discomfort, never complained, never wavered. His mission, his promise, superseded all physical ailments. Visitors from far and wide continued to make pilgrimages to Oakhaven, drawn by the legend. They would stand in respectful silence, observing Buster, often moved to tears by the sheer depth of his devotion. Some would leave flowers by the oak tree, others small, handwritten notes expressing their admiration. Buster, in his wisdom, seemed to sense their reverence, accepting their quiet homage with a dignified grace. He was a living testament to an ideal, a tangible embodiment of unconditional love. On particularly quiet afternoons, when the station was empty save for Buster and perhaps a lone station attendant, Buster would sometimes gaze up at the old oak tree, its branches now even more gnarled and ancient. It was beneath this tree that Arthur had made his promise, a sacred vow that had shaped Buster's entire existence. One could almost imagine Arthur's voice, carried on the gentle breeze, repeating, "Wait for me, my loyal friend." Buster, in these moments, seemed to be listening, not just with his ears, but with his very soul, reaffirming his commitment. The echoes of that promise were not just in the air. They were in Buster's heart, driving his unwavering vigil, a timeless melody of love that transcended the boundaries of life and death. He was a living echo, a constant reminder of a bond unbreakable, a loyalty eternal. As Buster entered his twilight years, his physical presence at the station became a little less active, but no less profound. He spent more time resting, nestled deep within his cozy doghouse, emerging with slow, deliberate movements only for the arrival of the trains. Yet, even from his semi-reclined position, his gaze remained fixed, his spirit alert. His ears, though perhaps not as sharp, still twitched at the distant whistle, signaling an internal readiness that time could not diminish. The silent conversations between Buster and the world around him deepened, becoming richer with unspoken understanding. The townspeople, now deeply familiar with his habits, respected his need for rest. They would approach his doghouse quietly, leading food and fresh water, often just sitting nearby for a few moments, offering their silent company. They understood that Buster's vigil was not about frantic energy, but about steadfast presence, a quiet, unwavering commitment. Children, now careful not to disturb him, would leave small, smooth stones or freshly picked flowers near his resting place, their innocent offerings a testament to their love and respect for the old dog. Mr. Henderson, the retired station master, would often visit, bringing his own thermos of tea and a small stool. He'd sit just outside Buster's doghouse, not speaking, just being present. In these quiet moments, a deep, unspoken communication passed between the two old souls. Buster would sometimes lift his head, his cloudy eyes meeting Mr. Henderson's, a silent exchange of understanding, of shared memories of the profound weight of time. They were two guardians of the station, one human, one canine, bound by a shared history and a mutual respect for a love story that continued to unfold. Even the train conductors and engineers, many of whom had changed over the years, knew Buster. As their trains pulled into Oak Haven, they would often slow a little more than necessary, giving Buster ample time to rise and survey the passengers. Some would offer a gentle wave from the cab, a silent acknowledgement of the legendary dog. They were all part of Buster's world now, participants in his unending vigil, witnesses to a loyalty that defied explanation. On clear nights, Buster would sometimes lie on the platform, gazing up at the countless stars, his head resting on his paws. It was as if he was having silent conversations with Arthur, reaching out across the vast expanse of the cosmos, reaffirming his promise. He was not alone. He was surrounded by the love of a town, by the respect of countless strangers, and by the enduring memory of his beloved master. His vigil was no longer just a wait. It was a profound act of love, a silent conversation with the heavens, a timeless testament to a bond that death could not sever. The silent conversations continued, woven into the very fabric of Oak Haven, echoing through the quiet nights and patient days, a powerful testament to an enduring love. Buster's heart, though aged and weary, beat with a steadfast rhythm, a testament to his enduring purpose. Every beat was an echo of Arthur's promise, a drumbeat of loyalty that resonated through his entire being. He was now a venerable elder, his fur almost entirely white, his movements slow and deliberate, each step a careful affirmation of his commitment. Yet the spark in his eyes, though dimmed by time, still held the unwavering light of hope. The old heart's rhythm was the rhythm of Oakhaven, a slow, steady pulse that embodied patience and unconditional love. The town had built a small, permanent shelter right on the platform, a discreet but comfortable lean-to against the station wall, providing Buster with easy access to his vigil spot while offering maximum protection from the elements. It was equipped with a perpetually warm orthopedic dog bed, ensuring his comfort. The local community had banded together, raising funds and volunteering labor, ensuring their beloved Buster lacked for nothing. His well-being was a shared responsibility, a collective act of love and respect for the extraordinary dog. Despite his physical limitations, Buster still made his presence known for every train. He might not always stand, but he would lift his head, his ears perked, his eyes searching. The conductors knew to linger a moment longer, allowing him his ritualistic search before giving the signal to depart. It was a silent courtesy, a shared understanding of the profound weight of his vigil. The passengers, too, would often pause, watching the old dog with a mix of awe and melancholy, many wiping away a tear as they understood the depth of his story. His days were filled with quiet contemplation, punctuated by the rhythmic arrival and departure of trains. He would often lie with his head resting on his paws, observing the world, the changing light, the rustling leaves of the old oak tree. His dreams, one could imagine, were filled with the son of Arthur, the sound of his voice, the warmth of his touch. He was living in a world between worlds, anchored to his promise, sustained by the memory of a love that defied all boundaries. Children, now careful to speak in soft whispers, would bring him small gifts, a favorite toy, a soft blanket, a hand-drawn picture of a happy dog and an old man. They understood that Buster was not just a dog. He was a living story, a profound teacher. His old heart's rhythm was a lesson in enduring love, a testament to the power of faithfulness. The people of Oakhaven cherished him, protected him, and revered him, knowing that they were witnessing a love story of epic proportions, a bond that transcended even death itself. Buster, the dog who waited, continued his vigil, his old heart beating strong with the unwavering rhythm of a promise kept, a love eternal. The light in Buster's eyes, once bright and alert, had begun to soften, taking on a milky, distant quality. His hearing, too, had diminished, and the distant rumble of the train now often required a gentle nudge from a volunteer to rouse him. He was very old, a venerable sage of the station, his body a map of his unwavering journey. The weight of countless seasons, of endless trains, of years of patient waiting, now settled heavily upon his frail frame. The fading light in his eyes was a poignant reminder of the relentless march of time, yet his spirit remained unbroken. His movements were now truly a testament to sheer will. Each rise, each slow, deliberate step towards the edge of the platform was an act of profound devotion. He might not always make it all the way, sometimes content to lift his head from his bed, his nose twitching, his eyes scanning what little he could perceive. But the intention was always there, the deeply ingrained habit of searching for Arthur, an instinct that had become his very essence. The townspeople, witnessing this steadfastness, were moved anew each day by his unwavering commitment. Dr. Lee, Buster's current veterinarian, made almost daily visits, administering gentle care, pain relief, and nutrient-rich supplements. She marveled at his resilience, knowing that most dogs of his age would have succumbed long ago. She often said it was his sheer will, his unshakable purpose, that kept him going. His bond with Arthur, even in absence, was a palpable force, a life-sustaining energy. The fading light was not extinguishing his purpose, merely softening its edges. Oakhaven had grown quieter around Buster. The boisterous children who once played near the station now moved with a hushed reverence when they approached his shelter. They understood instinctively that they were in the presence of something precious and finite. They spoke in whispers, their gestures gentle, their hearts filled with a profound respect for the old dog who had taught them so much about love and loyalty. His story, deeply woven into the town's identity, became a shared narrative of enduring affection. On particularly cold or wet days, volunteers would often sit with Buster, offering a warm hand to rest his head on, a soft voice to murmur comforting words. They knew that his time was drawing short, and they wanted to ensure his last days were filled with warmth, comfort, and the knowledge that he was deeply loved. The fading light in Buster's eyes was not a sign of surrender, but a gentle transition, a slow preparation for a journey that would ultimately lead him back to his beloved master. His vigil continued, a quiet, powerful testament to a love that time could not diminish, and even the fading light could not extinguish. The day of the final train arrived quietly, subtly, like most significant moments in Buster's long life. It was a crisp autumn afternoon, the air carrying the scent of damp leaves and distant wood smoke. The sky was a gentle gray, a soft canvas for the unfolding of a poignant farewell. Buster, nestled in his warm bed within the platform shelter, was more still than usual. His breathing was shallow, his old body frail, but his ears, though barely perceptible, still twitched with an inner awareness. Dr. Lee was there, along with Mr. Henderson, Sarah, and a few of Oakhaven's most devoted residents, all gathered in quiet vigil around Buster's shelter. Their faces were etched with a shared sorrow, but also a profound reverence. They knew this was the end of an era, the culmination of a story that had touched so many hearts. They spoke in hushed tones, sharing memories of Buster, of Arthur, of the unbreakable bond that had defined their town for so long. The atmosphere was one of profound peace, mingled with the bittersweet anticipation of an inevitable parting. Suddenly, a faint, familiar rumble echoed in the distance. It was the afternoon train approaching Oakhaven. Buster, with a strength that seemed to defy his frail body, slowly lifted his head. His eyes, though clouded, seemed to focus, and a low, soft whine, almost a whimper of anticipation, escaped his throat. It was the sound of a promise remembered, a hope rekindled for one last time. He struggled to rise, his legs trembling, his old heart pounding with a renewed purpose. The train was coming, and he had to be ready. Mr. Henderson gently helped him, supporting his frail body as Buster took a few slow, deliberate steps towards the edge of the platform. His gaze, though weak, was fixed on the approaching engine, a glimmer of the youthful Buster returning to his eyes. The train pulled into the station, its brakes hissing softly, its doors opening with a gentle sigh. Buster's tail, almost imperceptibly, gave a single weak wag. He searched as he had searched for countless years among the few disembarking passengers. There was no Arthur. A collective sigh, hushed and sympathetic, rippled through the small group gathered around him. But this time, something was different. As the last passenger stepped off, Buster didn't settle back down with his usual resignation. Instead, a serene calm settled over his face. His eyes, for a fleeting moment, seemed to clear, taking on a profound, knowing look. He looked not at the empty platform, but slightly beyond it, into an unseen distance, and a soft, contented sigh escaped him. His body, supported by Mr. Henderson, gently slumped. Buster, the dog who waited forever, had finally found his peace. The final train had arrived, and though Arthur had not physically disembarked, Buster had sensed his presence, a reunion beyond the veil, a promise finally fulfilled. As Buster's last breath feathered into the autumn air, a profound stillness fell over the Oakhaven train station. The small group gathered around him stood in silent reverence, their hearts heavy with grief, yet also touched by a sense of completion, of a promise beautifully kept. Dr. Lee gently confirmed what they already knew. Buster had passed peacefully, his long vigil finally over. It wasn't just the end of a life. It was the culmination of an epic love story, a homecoming beyond sight, but deeply felt. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then a gentle breeze rustled through the leaves of the old oak tree, carrying with it a whisper that seemed to echo Arthur's long-ago promise. It was as if the very air of Oakhaven acknowledged Buster's profound journey and his ultimate reunion. Tears flowed freely from the eyes of those present, not just for the loss of a beloved dog, but for the beauty and purity of the bond he had embodied. Sarah, Arthur's niece, knelt beside Buster, gently stroking his white-dusted fur. "He waited, Uncle Arthur," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "He truly waited for you." It was a sentiment shared by everyone. Buster had not just waited. He had lived his entire life in the unwavering certainty of that promise, transforming a simple act of waiting into a profound testament of love. Mr. Henderson, his own eyes glistening, carefully covered Buster with a soft blanket, a gesture of deep respect for his longtime companion at the station. He recounted stories of Buster to the younger folks, ensuring that the details of his unwavering vigil were passed down accurately. The legend of Buster was not just a story, it was a living memory ingrained in the heart of Oakhaven. Though Arthur's physical form had not stepped off that last train, everyone present felt a palpable sense of peace, a profound conviction that Buster had indeed been reunited with his master. His final, serene expression, his gaze fixed on an unseen point beyond the platform, was all the proof they needed. It was a homecoming beyond the limitations of the physical world, a spiritual embrace that transcended death itself. Buster had completed his journey, fulfilling his sacred duty with a dignity and devotion that would forever inspire. The station, usually a place of comings and goings, now felt imbued with a new, sacred energy. It was no longer just a stopping point. It was a threshold, a place where the earthly and the ethereal had momentarily converged. Buster's passing was not an ending, but a transformation, a testament to the eternal nature of love. He had gone home, not just to a house, but to the heart of his beloved Arthur, a homecoming beyond sight, a reunion that fulfilled a promise spanning years and defying death. In the days that followed Buster's passing, the Oakhaven train station felt profoundly changed. A quiet emptiness settled over the platform where his golden form had been a constant for so many years. The familiar sight of him, a beacon of loyalty, was gone, leaving a void that resonated deeply within the hearts of the townspeople. Yet this emptiness was not one of despair, but of profound reverence. The station had gained a new soul, infused with the spirit of Buster's unwavering love. The town mourned, not with dramatic displays, but with quiet gestures of remembrance. Children left drawings and small, hand-painted stones by the old oak tree. Adults shared stories, their voices soft with nostalgia, recounting Buster's patient vigils, his gentle nature, and the incredible depth of his bond with Arthur. The local newspaper ran a heartfelt obituary, honoring Buster as a beloved member of the community, a legend whose story would live on. Soon, a collection was started, spearheaded by Sarah and Mr. Henderson, to erect a permanent memorial for Buster. Donations poured in from Oakhaven and from far beyond, from people around the world who had been touched by his story. A local sculptor, deeply moved by Buster's tale, volunteered his time and talent. Together, they envisioned a statue that would capture the essence of Buster's unwavering loyalty, a timeless tribute to a love that transcended death. The chosen spot for the memorial was, fittingly, right beside the old oak tree, on the very platform where Buster had spent his life waiting. It would depict Buster not as a young, vibrant dog, but as an elderly, patient sentinel, his head slightly raised, his gaze fixed on the distant tracks, forever waiting. The statue would be life-sized, crafted with meticulous detail, ensuring that every wrinkle, every strand of fur, every nuance of his devoted expression was captured for posterity. As the plans for the memorial took shape, the station itself seemed to transform. It was no longer just a place of transit. It became a destination, a pilgrimage site for those seeking to connect with the profound story of Buster. People would visit not to catch a train, but to feel the lingering presence of his spirit, to reflect on the power of loyalty, and to remember the quiet strength of a love that endured beyond all conventional understanding. The station had gained a new soul, a quiet, powerful presence that would forever remind Oak Haven, and indeed the world, of the extraordinary dog who waited forever, leaving an indelible mark on the heart of the community and becoming a timeless symbol of devotion. Months later, on a beautifully clear spring day, the bronze legacy of Buster was unveiled at the Oak Haven train station. The ceremony was simple, yet deeply moving, attended by almost every resident of Oak Haven, as well as visitors who had traveled from afar to witness the tribute. The life-size statue stood proudly beside the old oak tree, a magnificent, enduring likeness of Buster in his later years. The sculptor had captured him perfectly, an old, wise golden retriever, sitting patiently, his head held high, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon, eternally waiting for Arthur's return. The details were exquisite, from the gentle curve of his tail to the faint lines of age around his eyes, conveying both his physical journey and the unwavering spirit within. Mr. Henderson, now quite frail himself, delivered a short, heartfelt speech, his voice thick with emotion. He spoke of Arthur and Buster's inseparable bond, of the years of unwavering vigil, and of the profound impact Buster had on the town. He taught us, Mr. Henderson concluded, his voice barely a whisper, what true loyalty means. He showed us that love transcends all boundaries, even death. His wait was not in vain, for in his waiting, he touched the hearts of the world. Sarah, her eyes filled with tears, placed a wreath of spring flowers at the base of the statue, a gesture of enduring love and gratitude. The bronze statue was more than just a memorial. It was a symbol, a teacher, a timeless reminder. Children would now gather around it, their hands reaching out to touch the cool bronze, listening intently as their parents or grandparents recounted the tale of Buster. They learned about patience, about enduring hope, and about the power of unconditional love from the silent, steadfast figure. The statue became a focal point for reflection, a place where people could pause and remember the profound connection between man and dog. Tourists continued to flock to Oak Haven, drawn by the legend. They would stand before the statue, often in quiet contemplation, sometimes leaving a small token of respect, a flower, a dog biscuit, a handwritten note. The station, once merely a stop on a railway line, had become a pilgrimage site, hallowed by the memory of a faithful dog. Buster's bronze legacy ensured that his story would never be forgotten, that his lesson in loyalty would continue to inspire generations. The seasons continued to turn, painting the landscape around the station in vibrant colors, but the bronze Buster remained an immutable presence. Rain or shine, snow or sun, he sat there, a silent sentinel, eternally waiting. His legacy was etched not just in bronze, but in the heart of Oak Haven, a profound testament to a bond beyond death. A love that had found its eternal expression in the silent, unwavering vigil of a dog who waited forever. His bronze legacy was a promise kept, a story immortalized, forever inspiring all who encountered it. Years stretched into decades, and the tale of Buster, the dog who waited forever, became an integral part of Oak Haven's folklore, whispered on the wind through generations. The bronze statue at the station, weathered by time and elements, stood as a silent, enduring testament to his remarkable loyalty. Its surface, worn smooth in places by countless reverent touches, reflected the changing light a constant presence in an ever-evolving world. The story, far from fading, grew richer with each passing year, a beloved narrative that connected Oakhaven to its past and instilled a timeless value in its future. New station masters came and went, new shops lined the streets, and the trains themselves evolved, becoming faster, more modern. Yet the spirit of Buster, embodied in his statue, remained an unshakable fixture. It was not just a piece of art. It was the heart of this station, the quiet guardian of Oakhaven's soul. Children, now bringing their own children to the station, would recount the story with a reverence passed down through their families, pointing to the statue and saying, "That's Buster. He waited for his master, Arthur. He never gave up." The oak tree, now even more ancient and majestic, provided shade for the statue, its branches swaying gently as if in silent conversation with the bronze dog beneath it. On quiet afternoons, one could almost imagine hearing Arthur's voice carried on the breeze, murmuring words of love and gratitude, and a soft, contented sigh from Buster, finally reunited. The air around the statue seemed imbued with a palpable sense of peace, a lingering echo of that profound spiritual reunion. Historians and sociologists studied the phenomenon of Buster's story, trying to understand its enduring appeal. They concluded that it resonated so deeply because it touched upon universal themes of unconditional love, faithfulness, and the yearning for connection that transcends even death. Buster's story was a reminder of the best in humanity, reflected through the purest heart of a dog. He became a symbol not just for Oakhaven, but for anyone who believed in the power of an unbreakable bond. The whispers on the wind carried his tale far beyond Oakhaven's borders, inspiring books, songs, and even films. But for the people of Oakhaven, it was more personal. Buster was their dog, their legend, a quiet constant in their lives. His story was a comfort, a lesson, and a source of enduring pride. The bronze legacy of Buster, standing steadfast at the station, ensured that his promise, his wait, and his ultimate homecoming would forever be etched into the collective memory. A timeless melody of love whispered on the wind, a bond beyond death that continued to inspire and move hearts. As the centuries turned, the Oakhaven train station evolved, modernized, and adapted to the changing world. But one thing remained immutable, the bronze statue of Buster. It stood as a silent guardian, a profound anchor to the town's enduring heart. The trains that now sped through Oakhaven were sleek and futuristic, their whistles sharper, their schedules more precise. Yet they still paused briefly by the old platform, a subtle nod to the timeless legend that defined this place. Buster's statue was not merely a landmark. It was the town's very soul, a constant reminder of the values it cherished. The old oak tree, now truly ancient and grand, spread its mighty branches over the statue, its leaves rustling with stories of seasons long past. Its roots were deeply intertwined with the very ground Buster had waited upon, a living, breathing monument alongside the bronze one. The area around the statue had become a tranquil park, a place of quiet contemplation where people could sit on benches, surrounded by flowers, and reflect on the enduring power of love and loyalty. It was a sacred space, hallowed by the memory of a faithful dog. Generations had learned of Buster's story, not just from books or museums, but from the palpable presence of his statue. Grandparents brought their grandchildren, pointing to the bronze figure and sharing the tale, often with tears in their eyes. The story of Arthur and Buster had become a moral compass for Oakhaven, a testament to the idea that true devotion could transcend all barriers, even the ultimate one. It taught patience, faithfulness, and the profound depth of the bond between species. Oakhaven, once a small, unassuming town, had become known worldwide as the home of Buster. Scholars, artists, and pilgrims visited regularly, drawn by the profound simplicity and power of the story. They sought not just to see the statue, but to feel the lingering spirit of Buster, To understand the enduring heart of a town shaped by such an extraordinary tale, the story was etched into the town's very identity, a source of pride and a profound sense of purpose. It was a narrative that resonated with the deepest human emotions, a reminder that love, in its purest form, is indeed eternal. The enduring heart of Oakhaven beat with the rhythm of Buster's long wait, a steady, unwavering pulse that spoke of resilience, hope, and an unbreakable bond. The statue, a bronze sentinel, continued its silent vigil, a promise immortalized, a love beyond death that continued to inspire, to comfort, and to remind all who encountered it that some bonds are truly meant to last forever. The tale of Buster, the dog who waited forever, remained the enduring heart of Oakhaven, a timeless melody of devotion that would echo through eternity. The legacy of Buster, the dog who waited forever, stretched far beyond the physical confines of Oakhaven, weaving itself into the tapestry of human understanding about loyalty and love. His story, told countless times, had become more than just a local legend. It was a universal parable, a beacon of hope that transcended cultures and generations. The bronze statue, now centuries old, stood as a monument not just to a dog, but to the profound capacity for love that resides in all living beings. Modern Oakhaven was a vibrant, bustling city, yet it had never forgotten its roots. The train station, though grand and futuristic, carefully preserved the original platform and the old oak tree, with Buster's statue at its heart. It was a deliberate choice, a daily reminder that progress should never overshadow the timeless values of the past. The area around the statue remained a tranquil sanctuary, a green space amidst the urban sprawl, where people could escape the clamor of modern life and connect with a story that spoke to the deepest parts of their souls. Educational programs inspired by Buster taught children about compassion, responsibility, and the unbreakable bonds we form with animals. Animal shelters and rescue organizations worldwide adopted Buster as their unofficial mascot, his image, a powerful symbol of hope for abandoned pets, reminding people that every animal deserves a loving home and the chance to form such a profound connection. His story inspired countless acts of kindness, fostering a deeper respect for the animal kingdom. Philosophers and theologians pondered the meaning of Buster's vigil, seeing in it a reflection of enduring faith, of promises kept even in the face of insurmountable odds. His unwavering hope, his quiet patience, became metaphors for the human spirit's capacity to believe in something beyond immediate perception. Buster was not just a dog. He was a teacher, a muse, a silent prophet of a love that defies the boundaries of life and death. And so the legacy of forever lived on. It lived in the bronze statue, in the rustling leaves of the ancient oak, in the quiet contemplation of visitors, and most profoundly in the enduring heart of Oakhaven. It was a legacy that whispered of a man and his dog, of a promise made, of a vigil kept, and of a reunion that, though unseen, was undeniably real. Buster's story was a timeless melody, a silent anthem of devotion that continued to resonate through the ages, reminding humanity that some bonds are indeed forged in eternity, a love beyond death, a legacy of forever. And in that, Arthur and Buster, forever intertwined, found their true immortality.